In the previous chapter, we saw Zhuo Fan emerge victorious in an epic battle against Ye Lin. Using strategy over raw power, Zhuo Fan shattered Ye Lin's golden dragon, leaving the crowd in awe of his brilliance. With his calm demeanor and invincible aura, Zhuo Fan proved why true strength lies in understanding and outsmarting one's opponent. Let's begin the chapter. "Senior brother, what did you say?" a disciple asked, his voice tinged with confusion. Wu Qingqiao frowned, deep in thought, before letting out a soft sigh. "I'm not entirely sure myself," he admitted, "but from what I saw in that last strike, I have a vague feeling Zhuo Fan was stringing junior brother along the entire time." The disciples were stunned, exchanging bewildered looks. Wu Qingqiu continued, his tone calm but tinged with curiosity. "Look at Zhuo Fan's 4 dragon souls. Not a single one of them seemed capable of standing up to junior brother. Yet in the end, it's his dragon soul that's left heavily wounded. Doesn't that strike you as strange? All this time it's been obvious that Zhuo Fan was barely holding on the ropes at every turn." Another disciple chimed in, his voice skeptical. "Yeah, but did that punk blindside him or something?" Wu Qingqiu sighed deeply. "Even if he did, it would have required flawless timing, and timing like that only comes in 2 ways. Either the opponent is careless, or the opportunity is created. My guess? Zhuo Fan orchestrated the latter." The crowd of disciples grew restless. "How can you be so sure?" one of them asked. Wu Qingqiu's gaze was sharp, his mind piecing together the puzzle. "It's all in Zhuo Fan's purple dragon's claw attack. The precision was perfect, executed at the exact moment needed to turn the tide of the fight. Do you really think a true expert like junior brother would leave himself so wide open for such an attack? No, this entire fight, it was orchestrated. Zhuo Fan played the tune, and junior brother danced to it. The disciples were left speechless, their minds racing. Zhuo Fan had turned the table so quickly, so decisively, that even they couldn't keep up. Until moments ago, he had been losing at every turn. But not everyone was so clueless. Among the crowd, a few older, more experienced figures were watching with knowing eyes. So young, and yet so cunning. Even we were deceived into believing he had no chance. Exalted He Ran stroked his beard thoughtfully and glanced at his old companion, Bai Mei. "Did you catch that, old friend?" Bai Mei nodded, his eyes gleaming with understanding. "Indeed. The 4 dragon souls, they were the key to his victory. Each one had a role, a purpose. The Scarlet Dragon was sent out first, a deliberate choice to test the Golden Dragon's strength. Then came the second variant, designed to diminish the Golden Flame's threat and set the stage for the final blow. The third dragon? Pure bait. The Azure Dragon was a perfect contrast to the Golden Dragon King. Its weak attack but strong defense made it the ideal cover for a closer approach. Exalted, He Ran chuckled softly, continuing the analysis. "And by forcing Ye Lin to expend his golden flame on the Azure Dragon, he left himself vulnerable. The Azure Dragon's apparent lack of offensive capability made it the perfect distraction. A lesser fighter might have dismissed it entirely, but Ye Lin, confident in his superiority, saw it as an easy target. Zhuo Fan exploited that arrogance to perfection." Bai Mei's voice carried a note of admiration. "Every move Zhuo Fan made had a purpose. He didn't just react, he manipulated. Each of the 3 variants served to wear down confidence, leaving him open to the final strike. The purple dragon, though not yet at its peak, was the decisive factor. Ye Lin only faltered because he underestimated it." He Ran nodded in agreement. Zhuo Fan's plan was flawless. Even the Azure Dragon's defense, so seemingly insignificant, was part of the larger scheme. Imagine a 3-year-old child holding a golden bauble, surrounded by 2 crippled bodyguards. Any self-respecting thief would focus entirely on that bauble, ignoring everything else in their path. That's exactly what Ye Lin did. Bai Mei sighed. "It's a crude analogy, but accurate. Yelin's confidence was his downfall. If he had kept a level head, this battle might have ended differently. But Zhuo Fan, his mind works on an entirely different level. Heiran smiled faintly. That's what sets Zhuo Fan apart. Strength alone doesn't win battles. It's his mind, his strategy, that makes him dangerous. His future is bright. The Western lands will never be the same. In the quiet valley, Danking Shen had also been observing the battle. He nodded to himself, a wry smile on his face. Ha ha ha. I'll bet those old fools knew how this fight might turn out, but even they wouldn't have guessed that the outcome had been set in motion from the very start of the melee. Back in the arena, Zhuo Fan stood before Yelin, his expression calm but smug. Did you really think I couldn't beat you in melee? Yelin's eyes widened in shock. You're telling me this was all an act? Zhuo Fan shrugged nonchalantly. Fine. I'll admit it. I lost in melee. I can't beat you there. Yelin's face twitched, his frustration barely contained. Are you mocking me? But, Zhuo Fan continued, his voice dropping to a more serious tone. Just because I knew I would lose doesn't mean I liked it. He narrowed his eyes, his expression sharp and calculating. An undefeated general isn't one who never loses. It's someone who turns defeat into victory. You're the dragon ancestor's disciple, a sacred beast known for its unparalleled strength. I knew your body would be just as strong. You inherited everything from the dragon ancestor, while I only received fragments from Aquilin. It was clear from the beginning I couldn't win in melee. But that loss gave me an advantage. Sacred beasts are proud, and you're no different. When you won the melee, it fed your arrogance. You thought you had crushed my strongest form and assumed victory was yours. That carelessness gave me the edge in the soul battle. And while you were busy overpowering me, I was analyzing your golden flame, figuring out how to counter it. That's my third advantage. Yelin's entire body shook as he stared at Zhuo Fan, utterly dumbfounded. He had never imagined that someone would be so meticulous, so invested in every aspect of a fight. His master had never taught him anything like this. His master's philosophy was simple. The strong dominate the weak. Power is absolute, but here and now, reality was proving otherwise. Strength alone wasn't enough. Strategy, cunning, and adaptability. These were what decided the outcome of this battle. Zhuo Fan smirked. In the end, you overlooked my purple. Lightning! It's still weak, yes, but it's not useless. As you defeated my dragon souls one by one, your overconfidence blinded you to its potential. That was my insurance. My final card in case everything else failed. And now, he laughed, his voice filled with confidence. Didn't I tell you? You're far too self-righteous. Zhuo Fan formed a hand sign, and the purple dragon moved. Its claw struck the golden dragon's body, sending another surge of purple lightning through its chest. Yelin cried out in pain. His soul was already damaged, and this new attack threatened to destroy him entirely. He desperately covered his golden dragon with golden flames, hoping to shield it from further harm. The purple lightning struck the barrier but fizzled out, revealing its limitations. Yelin felt a pang of regret. He had underestimated Zhuo Fan, allowed his arrogance to dictate his actions. Now he was paying the price. The golden dragon, though powerful, was being overwhelmed. Zhuo Fan's 4 rubbish dragon souls had turned the tide of the battle. The demonic dragon drained the golden flames. The azure dragon neutralized its attacks. The scarlet dragon exploited its wounds. One by one, Zhuo Fan's strategies compounded, pushing Yelin further and further into despair. In the end, the golden dragon, once so majestic, was left battered and defeated. If the decimating dragon ancestor could see this, he would have roared in fury. His perfect heaven dragon soul, brought low by what he would have considered trash. But in this fight, strength wasn't everything. Zhuo Fan had proven that brains, patience, and strategy could triumph over raw power. The clash of dragon souls thundered through the battlefield, a violent spectacle, though far from an even fight. It was a one-sided beatdown. The mighty decimating Golden Heaven Dragon King lay fatally wounded, its power now at a severe disadvantage. Once impervious, its golden flames had shrugged off the Scarlet Dragon's assaults with ease. Even the ferocious purple dragon, known for its raw brutality, couldn't breach the golden flame's defense. The other dragons fared no better. Their combined might insufficient to pose a serious threat to the golden dragon, but the tables turned with a single opening. The purple dragon's sneak attack had left a critical crack in the golden dragon's defenses. Now, even the Scarlet Dragon's once ineffective strikes could slip through and inflict damage. Seizing this opportunity, Zhuo Fan's 4 dragon souls coordinated like seasoned generals on a battlefield. The azure and demonic dragons took turns defending against the golden flames, neutralizing their once overwhelming power. Whenever the golden dragon tried to counterattack, the Scarlet Dragon would slam into its wounds, forcing it back into submission. And when the golden dragon hesitated to retaliate, the azure dragon and the black dragon would exploit the opportunity to set up for the next devastating strike. The golden dragon was stuck in a vicious cycle, a predator now turned prey. The azure dragon, with its intense flames, was the perfect counter to the golden dragon's ferocity. Even when the golden dragon went all out, it could barely scratch the azure dragon before the purple dragon swooped in with its savage lightning strikes. Though the weakest of Zhuo Fan's 4 dragons, the purple dragon's precision attacks struck fear into the golden dragon. It hesitated, too wary of another sneak attack, and this hesitation left it vulnerable. The once mighty golden dragon, now battered and bloodied, was utterly passive. It was like a giant bound by ropes, left at the mercy of a group of opportunistic brats. One of them even carried a blade, keeping the giant in constant fear. No matter how strong it was, the constant harassment had worn it down. The audience was stunned. This wasn't just a fight. It was a spectacle that defied expectations. The mighty golden dragon, revered for its power, was now reduced to a cowering shadow of its former self. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd as they tried to make sense of the sudden turn of events. How did this happen? How did Zhuo Fan gain the upper hand? Amid the shocked murmurs, a group of women buzzed with excitement. One of them turned to Chu Qingcheng, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Sister Qingcheng, what's going on? How did he turn this around?" Chu Qingcheng blinked, her composure shaken by the sudden twist. She took a moment to gather herself, then smiled brightly. "I thought I understood him, but I was wrong. I never imagined he'd turn his weakness into his greatest weapon." Shui, Rohua, standing nearby, looked at Zhuo Fan with a mixture of awe and admiration. "A true and capable man," she murmured. "Who else would dare to find victory in their faults?" Not everyone was impressed. Xuan Xiaoyu, watching from the sidelines, spat angrily. "Humph! Yi Lin was a fool to lose like this. He deserved it." Others, however, saw the brilliance in Zhuo Fan's strategy. Sword god Sex Wen Tao, his head in his hands, muttered, "Tianshang, your brother is incredible. I always thought his strength made him a freak, but now I see it's his mind. This isn't a victory won through brute force. Those 4 dragon souls couldn't beat the golden dragon in a straight fight. But now look at it. Beaten black and blue. Just how did he come up with this strategy?" Jie Tianshang, standing beside him, chuckled. "Haven't I been saying this all along? Zhuo Fan may have come from a lowly third-rate clan, but in just 10 years, he's risen to the top of the empire. That's not just luck or guts, it's his mind. He's spent years navigating life-and-death situations, scheming against enemies who would crush him in an instant if given the chance. He's faced countless old foxes and outsmarted them all." He paused, his gaze fixed on Zhuo Fan. Lin might be a prodigy, stronger than most, but when it comes to strategy, no sect master's heir can match Zhuo Fan. Wen Tao nodded slowly, his admiration growing. This wasn't just a fight, it was a masterpiece of tactics. Zhuo Fan didn't try to overpower Ye Lin in melee. Instead, he baited him into a soul battle, where his strategy could shine. To have such confidence in his plan, it's terrifying. Just then, 3 voices echoed in unison. The Lone Breach! The speakers were the exalted and Danking Shen, their tones filled with praise. Danking Shen stroked his beard, a smile playing on his lips. The Lone Breach, an ancient and dangerous tactic. On the battlefield, it's used to exploit the strongest point of an enemy's defense, where they least expect an attack. Most would focus their forces on the weakest points, but a true master concentrates everything on that one lone breach, catching the opponent off guard. Victory is swift and decisive, but it's also incredibly risky. If it fails, it leads to total disaster. He chuckled, clearly impressed. Zhuo Fan used this tactic brilliantly. He played on Ye Lin's arrogance, baiting him into a soul battle where he could exploit that lone breach. It's bold, it's cunning, and it's exactly why Zhuo Fan is destined for greatness. As Danking Shen turned to leave, a roar erupted behind him, stopping everyone in their tracks. Zhuo Fan! Ye Lin's voice was filled with rage and defiance, blood dripping from his mouth as his eyes burned with fighting spirit. One of us will stand on the other's shoulders to reach the peak, but it won't be you. Zhuo Fan didn't respond immediately. He simply grinned, a wicked, confident grin that sent chills down Ye Lin's spine. Then, with a subtle hand gesture, the 4 dragon souls intensified their assault on the golden dragon. Claws and fangs tore into its flesh, each. Strike pushing it closer to defeat. Give up, Zhuo Fan taunted, his voice dripping with mockery. The winner is decided. Even your master would understand that no one can fight 3 sacred beasts alone. Not even the dragon ancestor himself. Bullshit, Ye Lin roared, spitting blood. My master would never back down, even against 4 sacred beasts. He'd fight them all and win. Zhuo Fan's grin widened. If your master's so foolish, then it's no wonder his disciple is losing here today. Ye Lin snarled, his fury boiling over. But just as he was about to retort, another devastating strike from the scarlet dragon landed on the golden dragon's wound. The impact made Ye Lin shudder, blood spilling from his lips. Zhuo Fan laughed, his hands moving in intricate signs as he continued his taunts. Face it, Ye Lin, you've lost, and the sooner you accept it, the better. In war, strength isn't everything. It's about using your fists and your brain. Haven't your elders ever told you that? Realizing he had been outplayed, Ye Lin let out a frustrated roar and retreated, his golden dragon following suit. As he flew a safe distance away, his eyes burned with determination. I'll show you what a true sacred beast inheritor can do. No tricks, no schemes, just pure unrelenting strength. And with that, Ye Lin made a sign, his voice echoing across the battlefield. Soul origin, golden dragon transformation, soul harmony.